Hi, my name is Luke Patrick, and I'm going to be making a Premiere Pro tutorial for the communications department. In this tutorial, I'm going to be using the Adobe Premiere Pro CC, which stands for Creative Cloud. If you're using the CS6 version of Premiere Pro, this will hold more or less true. From this screen, you can select New Project, Open Project, New Team Project, Open Team Project, or select from previous projects that you've worked on in the past. For the sake of this video, we're going to make a new project. When you click that button, you'll be prompted by this window right here. From this window, you can title your project. So I'm going to title this one COM1. Select the location to where you're going to save this project. Now I will note that this is not where your videos are going to be saved. This is where the project file, the Adobe file, is going to be saved. If you want to change that, say you want to save it onto a flash drive so you can take it around with you, or you want to save it to a desktop or a certain file folder in a desktop, you can click Browse right here and select from wherever you'd wish. As far as these settings, I wouldn't mess with them. At this stage, you won't need to know anything about these, except for this guy right here, the capture format. This little guy right here selects between HDV, which is high def video, or digital video. You're going to want this to be set to HDV if you're shooting in a resolution of 1080p or higher. If you're shooting in 720 or lower, you're going to want the digital version. After you have all these settings and file location saved as you'd like, go ahead and hit OK. So once you do that, this screen is going to pop up. Now just to go over what all of this is before we get started importing video, this is the program window. This is going to show you, preview whatever videos you have in the timeline. This is the source clip window. This is going to, if you double click from your media that's down in the import folder down here, it's going to show up here. You can also select from effects controls, Lumetri scopes, or an audio clip mixer. And I'll go through these and show you these again once I actually have footage into the program. This is where all your media is going to start. This is your project folder. Whenever you import footage or whatever you need to import, whether it's a title, an import from After Effects or from Adobe Illustrator, this is going to show up here. You go down here to Media Browser, this shows you all of your files on your computer, and you can go through and pick what you need from here if you're choosing, for instance, a different After Effects plugin or some footage. This is your timeline. Whatever videos you want to manipulate, you'll need to drag from either this window or the import folder onto the timeline. So moving on, I'm going to import media. Now there's two ways you can import media. You can either right click here and select import, and then select whichever files you'd like to import, or you can come up here to File, Import, and select the files you wish to import. Now here's where your imported files are going to go. If you double click on any of these videos, you're going to send them up here to the preview window. Now from the preview window, you can take this little blue slider and move the footage back and forth to wherever you'd like it to be. If you like this clip, you can either drag it from the project folder, or you can come up here and drag it from the preview folder. And you drag onto the timeline. Now one thing to note about Adobe Premiere Pro is that you will not be prompted to set up the video resolution of the timeline. For instance, these videos I shot right here are all in the 1080p resolution. So what the program does is the first video you drag onto the timeline, that is how it's going to set the sequence settings for this video. So since I drug this over and it's 1080p, the sequence settings are going to be set to the 1080p resolution. So to put in perspective what that means, if I were to drag now, after already dragging these onto the timeline, if I were to drag a clip that was shot in 4K resolution, it's going to appear massive. It'll look something like that. It's going to look way zoomed in. Now, if I dragged in something that was 720p, it'd show up about that size because it's a smaller video resolution. So with that being said, be mindful of your video resolution that you shoot in. This right here is your playhead position. It's the same title as what's over here. So these two little blue number bars are the same thing. And this tells you exactly where you are in your video. I'm going to go ahead and mute this so you don't have to listen to that. But it tells you exactly where you are in your video. So at this point, I'm 23 seconds, basically 24 into the shot. Now you can move through your video a few different ways. You can do how I was doing and take this little bar and drag it around. You can also take this little slider and drag it around. Or you can take the video playhead button, click on it, and then move left and right with your mouse. Or if you know the exact time you'd like to go to, you can double click and then type in where you'd like to go. Moving just to the right, this is the zoom level. Right now, this is set to fill the entire program window. If you click on it, you'll see these numbers. If you click 10%, it's going to go a lot smaller. If you click 25, it'll be bigger, and so on. But you're going to want to keep this on fit most of the time, unless you're really working closely inside the video. So moving down to the timeline, you'll notice that these are really small video tracks. Or this right here, this is your video 1 track, this is your audio track. You'll notice audio 1, audio 2, and audio 3, as well as video 1, video 2, and video 3. To make these bigger and a little more easy to work with, you can go into this gray area that's lined up with this video track and double click, the same as the audio track. And this will give you a little preview clip of the video as well as the waveform of the audio. Moving up, this guy right here, you see with all these numbers, this is the time code. This is exactly how long your video is. So you can go through and say, okay, right there's an 8-second shot, or 24 seconds, or 50, or however you'd like. You can also make this bigger and smaller by going over here to these little scroll wheels and selecting it like that. And it's the same thing for here. If you're working with a lot of video, notice that this only goes out to about 2 minutes long. If you want it to extend that and look farther in the timeline, you can take this little circle right here and drag it out. Drag it all the way to the end, you're looking at about 10 or 11 minutes. The inverse also applies, where if you take it and drag it really close inside, you'll notice that you're down to almost a whole second just right here in the timeline. So if you go through right here and play it, that's going to just shoot by there. So have this set at a comfortable rate for you to edit. Right here, this is your audio meter. I'm going to go ahead and unmute this so you can kind of see what it does. So I'm going to play out this video for just a second. Now you can see the audio meter jumping around. So if you remember before, we took this clip right here and we just dragged the entire thing over onto the timeline. Say you wanted to edit this and get it, like say you had this shot which is 55 seconds and you only wanted about 8 seconds or so. You can use this little slider right here and go to exactly where you want it. So for this instance, I'm going to go about right here. Now on your keyboard you'll have the I and the O keys. If you hit I, you'll notice that this little gray bar pops up. That's the I stands for in and the O stands for out. So if you scroll through to the end of where you want, I'll take it right there, and hit the Out key, you can then go up into this window and drag your clip onto the timeline. Now say I only wanted the video from this clip. I can go right here to this little video reel and drag only the video. Now if I only wanted the audio, I can go and drag only the audio. So staying in this window, you'll notice that we still have these tabs up here. So if I go over here and do effects control, I can adjust and control whatever effects that I need to. So for instance, if I come over here, go over to just pick an effect to throw in this video, I can adjust it from here. And I can make whatever adjustments I need. This is something you're going to have to work on or search YouTube videos up on certain effects. This video would be much longer if I went into every single effect. But I want to take this opportunity to introduce you to your best friend in editing. If you're editing on a PC, it's going to be Control Z. And what that is Edit Undo. If you're editing on a Mac, it'll be Command Z. So what Edit Undo does is it just takes the last thing that you did, which was for us was apply the equalize effect, and it undoes it. And you can go through and undo as much or as little as you'd like. So moving on with these tabs, you have Lumetri scopes. Going over here to the audio mixer just kind of gives you a little way to adjust the audio. So you can take this and make it louder, or you can take this and make it quieter. Now there is another way to adjust your audio, and that is down here with this bar. If you don't see the bar, sometimes it can be hidden right here on this crease, but you'll notice if I scroll over it, I'll get this a different cursor will show up. And when this cursor shows up, you can take and drag this bar to make it as loud or as quiet as you want to. So going back to the timeline here, I'm going to take you through these bars, or this little area here. What this is right here is your little toolbar, and it's going to have all the tools that you'll need to edit your videos. This is a selection tool, which can also be accessed by V. I'd highly recommend learning the shortcuts on a keyboard because that's going to make your editing go much quicker. Going on down is the razor tool. What you can do with this is cut your clips into segments or wherever you'd like to cut them, and then with the selection tool you can move them around or adjust the order of them if you'd like. Moving down, this is the pen tool. Now if you're wanting to get creative with your audio and have, say, it rise at a certain point or crescendo or dip at a certain point, you can take this pen tool down to the audio line and click, and that little blue dot's going to come up right there, and what that is a keyframe. So if you wanted to adjust your audio in a much more creative way, you take the pen tool, click on the line, and then at another place in the timeline, or excuse me, on the clip, you make another point. You go back to the selection tool, and then you can adjust it like that. And you can see how the audio bends. And you can move it left, right, move it around. You can move it wherever you want. So if I wanted to get real creative, I can put as many of these points down on the timeline as I'd like, and then adjust all of them individually. So you can have an audio spike or just a dip out at a certain point, or you can group them all in a super close fashion and make kind of a little audio bend if you want. So moving back up into the program window here, if you go over here to assembly, what this is going to do is it's going to lay out all of your imported video, anything you have in the import section here, and it makes it a little bit easier for just chopping your video and throwing it on the timeline. It's kind of for the speed edit. Going back to this is the editing. This is for whenever you get everything into your timeline, if you'd like to edit from this window, or from this window preset. this will open up the effects controls, and you can adjust everything a little more clearly. Now notice it took away the source window. Well, it didn't take it away completely, it's still there, but it made it bigger so you can adjust your effects as you'd like. Now the color tab brings up the color spectrum over here, and from here you can mess with the colors in the program window. Move to a little bit of a better shot here so you can see. It's right about there. You can take and adjust your colors as you see fit. You can also take and do tints as well. Going back over here to effects, this is the normal window. This is where the program will open up to every single time you open it. Go over here to audio. This is for adjusting your audio. Kind of self-explanatory there, but all these are our Windows preset windows, like structures to help you improve your editing. Go over here to titles. This is going to open up a little title window that'll help you make titles, but we'll go into how to make titles here in a second. And then libraries is just a little way to import, well, for one, edit whatever you need here, as well as have the bigger projects tab. And it also opens up this over here, which adds work that you've done in the past through other programs such as Adobe Illustrator, Photoshop, and After Effects. And you can open those through here and import them as well. Now I want to go back over here for a second and show you a little trick. And this applies to this as well. If you're having trouble with your video skipping, then as you play it back, it might be because your computer isn't the best. The PC I'm editing on is a custom built PC, so it can handle anything I throw at it. However, the university computers aren't as athletic, so you may need to help them out a bit. And to do that, you can go to this little guy right here. And this is on both tabs, or both window previews. And what this is this adjusts the resolution in which your video plays. So it'll dumb it down a little bit so the computer can keep up. So if you're having problems with skipping, or it's just not acting as fast as you want to be, or the computer's lagging, you can take these and bring them down, and it'll just help the computer out a bit. You can notice the quality dips just a hair. Here's where you're gonna take all of your effects or anything that you need in this little effects tab. The video transitions are here. Out of the dissolves and all of the video transitions, cross dissolve and a dip to black are going to be your best friends. A cross dissolve, how to get these onto the video is you take them and drag them onto the video. Let me put another piece of video here so you can see. So if you take this and drag it down, it should bridge to get. However, if you get this little error code right here, it says insufficient media, the transition will contain repeated frames. Okay, you can select that, but you don't really want it. So what you can do, basically what that's telling you is, these are the whole clips. This is the clip from start to finish of both of them. So there's not really a whole lot of information for the program to run off of to create the transition. So what you're going to want to do is take and just scale these back just a bit. Now you see you have this black space here. There are two ways to get rid of this. The easiest way is to right click and hit ripple delete, and that'll take it away. Or if you have the snap tool turned on over here, you can just drag the clip over to his buddy and they'll live together forever. So you can take the cross dissolve tool now, and it should place a dissolve, and cross dissolve in between these two clips. Now what a dip to black is helpful at the end of your videos. Rather than just a really abrupt ending like that, you can use a dip to black, and it's going to give you a nice soft let off at the end of the video. Now those are about as much as I'm going to go into it. I would highly suggest getting around and just throwing some videos on the timeline and just throwing as many effects on them as you can. and so you can get an idea of how they work. Under the Video Effects tab, there's a lot of stuff here, and again, for most of this, I would just get in and just play with it, to see what works and what doesn't. However, I will tell you a few key things that are really helpful to know. If you open the Blur tab, Blur and Sharpen, you'll notice this Gaussian blur. This is something you're going to use quite a bit. Now if I drag this down here, what this is going to do is add a blur to the video. Now you notice you can't really see it here. If you go over here to the effects controls, right here is the Gaussian blur. Now I can take it, right here is the blurriness, and you can adjust how blurry you want the the piece of media to be or not to be. I'm just going to go ahead and Control Z, get rid of those. I'm going to close this tab. So going back up into the Video Effects tab, the other thing I'm going to show you is click on Video Effects, head down here to where it says Obsolete, and hit the three-way color corrector. Now if you want to adjust how your shot looks as far as color wise and do some very basic color correction, you can choose this, and this is going to help you in color correcting your shots. Over here, this is the shadows color wheel, the midtones, and the highlights. So this is going to help you all the highlights, so all the really bright lights this is going to help. The midtones is going to be this one, and the shadows, the main part of the picture, is going to be this. You can go down here and adjust the input levels, the output levels, as well as the range definition, and so on and so forth. I would really recommend watching much more in-depth YouTube video on just this, because I guarantee you there's one on YouTube that's at least 15 minutes long on just how to use the three-way color corrector. Okay, so you might have noticed that this little yellow bar has popped up. Now what this little yellow bar means is that the effects that you added into, mainly the transitions, haven't been rendered yet. Now, if this bar ever turns red, that means whenever you scroll over it or your video plays over it, it's going to get really choppy in the playback. Now to fix this right here, you go up here to Sequence and Render In to Out. You're going to notice this little window pop up right here. And what this is doing is rendering everything, every single frame that is in this timeline at the moment. You can see there's 5,655 frames and there's some minute and a half of video. This is going to take quite a while depending on how much effects you've thrown on there or how much video is on the timeline. Now as you can see, this bar is turning green as the program renders through it. Now rendering is going to make your playback much smoother. So if you notice your video is chopping and doing the little adjusting, the resolution of the video doesn't work, you might check to see if there's any red bars here on the timeline. And if there are, go ahead and render it real quick, and it'll help it out a lot. A few more things and we'll wrap up. So you go up, if you want to make a title for your video, say you want to say Taco Bell right here. You click title up here, new title. And from here you can go through if you want a default still, a roll, or a crawl. A roll is going to be something that just kind of goes across the screen. A crawl is going to come up the screen, kind of like you see in the end of movies. And a still is just going to be a stationary title. After you click whether you want a crawl, a roll, or a still, you can come up here and this is going to ask you how you want it. Now this is going to be set at 1920 by 1080, which is the video resolution. I believe if you set your first video onto the timeline, like I said before, at 4K, then the 4K video settings will show up. If they don't, you might look them up and type them in here, as well as whatever FPS you shot the video in. Whenever you name your title, we'll name this one COM1. Okay, now this is going to come up. Now this has confused me for a long time. on how to do text. So default, whenever you start up, you're going to get this little text icon right here. It's going to look like a really weird mouse and a little eye symbol. Now what you do is you go to wherever you want your text, you click and then you drag, and it's going to open a text box. And you can type in here whatever you want. Test 1. Or no, what do we say? Taco Bell? TA is Taco Bell. Okay, there's some Taco Bell. If all I want it to do right now is say Taco Bell, I might be looking up here thinking, oh, how do I get this on the timeline? Well, you exit out, and then it's going to be saved in here in your import folder. From here, you drag it out and place it onto your timeline. Now, say I don't want this for just 10 seconds or however long it is. This little purple here means that it's a different type of file than this video. This video is limited to however much you shot. This purple area is not. So I can take this and extend it to infinity. And so I'll have Taco Bell for the rest of as long as this video goes on. Or you can take it and make it as short as you want it to be. Now say I have my Taco Bell and I want it to be something different. I don't like it the way it looks here. I just want it to be different. What you can do is you can go over here and double click on this here. I believe you can also double click right there and open this window back up. Now I'm going to move this down just a little bit so you can see. Whatever changes I make right here is going to translate to here. So if I delete the L and the L and then click out, they're gone. So this is the window you're going to need. Now from this window you can make all sorts of adjustments. You deal with the opacity, the font, the style, the size. There's a lot of effects, or a lot of different options here that I would suggest you go in and just manipulate as you'd like. So I'm going to go up here and talk about these little guys right here, and then we'll be done. So the file button right here, this is going to open, you can make a new project, a sequence, just a whole bunch of different options. You can open a new project, open a lot of things. You can close this project. The most important buttons here are save and save as. That is your life in working with video, is save and save often. You can also go down here to import and export. Most of these you're never going to use, but I would remember save, import, and export. If you go over here to edit, you'll have edit, undo, redo, some copy and pastes, and as well as some more options that you can choose from. And you'll have to learn how to use these on your own. Same thing goes for clip. You can rename your clip. You can modify your clip just a little bit, as well as change the speed and duration. This is something that you're not going to find over here. So if you wanted to change the speed of this video, say you wanted it sped up, you make sure it's highlighted. Go up here to clip, speed, duration, and this is going to ask you, it's going to give you this little box right here, and you can make it, if you want it faster, you can have it be at 5,000%, or let's not make it that, let's make it 500%. That's going to make a 47-second clip 8 seconds long. Or you can reverse it, or make it slower, so you can type in negative 500, or excuse me, negative 5, and then now it's 13 hours long. So you can do whatever you'd like with that. So now it is just a super quick shot. The sequence, you can change your sequence settings from here. Say you dragged the wrong video in here, you can reset it as you want here or change it. So if I wanted to, I could go, the max right now with this is 1920, but I can change whatever I'd like to here. Going over to Marker, this gives you the mark in and mark out tools, as well as some other very helpful shortcuts and options. Title, we already talked about title. Window. So right now you can see that audio meters, effects, project, tools, and workspaces are checked. If I wanted something else here, say if I wanted a title action window, I can click that and this will pop up. If I wanted a Lumetri color window, this new little window is going to pop up here. And then finally you have the help sign. If you ever just get in trouble and you need some help, there you go. The very last thing I'm going to show you is how to export your masterpiece. I'm going to make sure Taco Bell's in this whole thing. So come over here and you're going to remember how to mark in and out. You press I, go to the end of your clip, press O, then you're going to come up here to File, Export, Media, and from here you're going to get this screen, and it's going to look like a bunch of gibberish. So starting at the top, you have your format. If you click on this, you're going to get a whole bunch of different video codecs and file formats. What I would recommend you using and sticking to is this H.264. It's a very simple codec. It keeps your video quality at a good rate, and you're not going to have to worry about it very much. And also, depending on your sequence settings and how your video was shot, you can have a much more extensive list than this. But I would stick to H.264. Now, if you want to change the name as well as the location of where your video is saved, that's an important one. You're going to have to click here. So when you click this, this is going to open up. And it's basically saying save as or export as. You're not going to be able to choose a location if you don't click that button. So I'm just going to name this test and save it in my random files folder. But you can go through and pick wherever you'd like to save it. So you notice that it's going to be test.mp4. You always want to make sure that you export your video and your audio, or else you're going to be scratching your head a little bit later. Starting off, I would definitely leave all of these settings exactly how they are, but other than that, you just want to go ahead and hit export. And after that, your video is ready to be watched. I really hope this tutorial helped, and good luck with finals.